What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another London POV. On today's walk I'm going to be starting off around the Tower of London and London Bridge and then making my way over towards St Paul's. It was a bright morning with a bit of cloud cover, and for this walk I wanted to try and find slightly more creative compositions, so I was looking for different framing options and trying to build layers in the images. As has been my go-to setup at the moment, I'm going to be pairing the Viltrox 25mm f1.7 with the Fujifilm X-S10. So we're just starting off, getting a little bit warmed up, firing off a few frames, just trying to capture people walking past the frame, using the shard as a bit of an anchor in the background, and then just capturing the people walking through the frame in front. There's a shot coming up in a moment and I absolutely love the guy's hat. It popped so much and just added so much more to this image. As I was walking down here, I noticed this couple in front of me and I wanted to try and capture a shot of them. So I fired off a frame then, just trying to see how it vibed, but I wasn't quite liking the look. So what I decided to do was move over to the right a little bit, use that hedgerow as a bit of a leading line towards them. And I think if you compare the two images, it definitely worked out a lot better. As I made my way down Tower Bridge, I noticed that I could see the shard poking up above the Tower of London. And in a previous nighttime POV, I'd used the openings in the bridge walls to frame the shard. So what I wanted to do was try and use a similar idea to try and find a location on the bridge where the shard was framed by the Tower of London whilst also framed nicely in the bridge. So as I'm walking down, I'm paying close attention to where the shard is sitting and how it's interacting with the Tower of London. When I found the perfect location, I started off by taking a quick snap of the shard and the Tower of London together, just to make sure I was happy with the framing and how they were interacting with each other. Then I crouched down and tried to frame everything, getting one shot framing the Tower of London and another with the shard and the Tower of London. I think those images worked out quite nicely with how all the layers worked together. After that, I continued to make my way towards Tower Bridge, and with all the traffic going by, I thought I'd fire off a quick few panning shots, as it wouldn't be one of my POVs without a couple of panning shots thrown in for good measure. As I made it closer to Tower Bridge, I wanted to try and get a few more shots of the shard through the bridge and experiment a little with what difference the different shapes made to the framing. So if you've got a favourite, let me know in the comments below. For these next couple of shots coming up here, I think I would have preferred to shoot these a little bit wider. I feel like fitting more in of the scene in here would have worked out well. I did try to fake it a little bit by getting lower, but it didn't quite pay off the way I'd liked it to have done. It's a situation like this where maybe doing something like a stitch shot would have worked out well, but I've had mixed results doing those with people in the frame, especially when they're not stationary and they're close to the camera. I think this one of the shard here has to be one of my favourites from the walk. I just love the composition and the way that the layers are framing and it all works together. Due to the way the light was landing, I almost wished that I was on the other walkway on the other side of the bridge, as I would have been able to use the sun as a bit of a backlight. Shooting on this side, the sun was coming from the left when I was shooting subjects. Because of the way the light was hitting them, they were often illuminated a little flat with them being in that direct sunlight. So I tried to play with my angles and experiment with just my framing to try and help create a little bit more depth to the compositions to try and counteract the lighting conditions on this side of the bridge. For these next couple of shots here, I wanted to try and use the wall as a bit of a leading line leading up to the subject here using a phone. I love the contrast between the way the sun was illuminating her and everyone else walking close to the building being in shadow. So I took this shot from a couple of different locations here, kind of repositioning myself, probably within a range of probably 8 to 10 feet difference, just trying to see what difference that made to the composition and how it altered the framing of the shard in the background. If you've got a favourite one from there, let me know in the comments below which you prefer. This image coming up now is another one of my personal favourites from this walk, and you'll notice I first of all walked past the image before turning round after I'd kind of clocked what I'd walked past, and I'd noticed that there was this couple here kind of quite isolated from everyone else, and then these bright red flowers that I wanted to try and use to kind of create some foreground in the image, but due to the focal length and the distance it wasn't working. So I pivoted a little and thought, I wonder if there's a different way that I can use the railings to frame them, and that's when I noticed the circles. So I lined up my shot and took a couple of frames, and I just love the way the framing on this one and how it sat. But it also does go to show that working a scene a little and looking around and what's around you can change the image drastically. And you can sometimes come out of it with a better shot than what you actually went in for. And that happens sometimes. The idea just doesn't pan out how you intended, but it's how you respond to that that makes or breaks an image that you get in a situation like that. Just before we get to our next location, I just wanted to take a quick moment to say that 82% of people watching my videos at the moment aren't subscribed. So if that's you and you like what I'm doing and want to support and help the channel grow, please consider subscribing or dropping a like on this video. It'd mean the world to me. Thank you in advance. Next up, we're slowly getting towards St. Paul's, and this is a location that I've always wanted to come to, where I specifically am now in the video. It's somewhere I've looked for on multiple trips to London, but I've always been unable to find it until now. I know some of these shots are pretty iconic in the sense that loads of people get them, but I always think it's a good thing getting and trying to show and trying to put your own spin on images in iconic locations, because you can test your skill as a photographer with how you edit or how you frame, and it's your interpretation of that. The leading lines from the yellow lines on the road and also the curb help to add depth whilst also leading the eye to St. Paul's in the distance. As I was walking up here in the distance, I noticed this like guardrail gate that was open, and I wanted to try and use it as a bit of a leading line towards St. Paul's. So I'm trying to take some a little bit further away just to see how that vibed, but you kind of lost that in the shadow. So I decided to get up close and personal with it, just to try and use it to almost block the busyness of what was going on. As I was walking away, I just did check a couple of those images just to see how I was vibing, and I wasn't quite liking what I got, so I went back just to take a couple of extra just for good measure, altering the framing, and I think what I did capture on the second time round worked out a lot nicer. Once I finally made it to St. Paul's, I was looking for ways to frame it using all the greenery that was around to add some depth but also intensify the focus on St. Paul's. And reflections are another cool way of doing that and adding a different spin to an image, especially when there's some texture to the water like in these images here. When I made my way over to the grounds of St. Paul's, I noticed all the bright yellow flowers and they caught my attention. So I wanted to try and use them in an interesting way to frame St. Paul's, or just to add a colourful anchor to the images. So again, it's possibly another shot that I would have liked to have been, it's another location that I would have liked to have shot with a slightly wider focal length, but I think overall they still worked out well. So I'm just trying to find ways of layering the flowers and also finding clusters of flowers that worked well in the composition. After I'd taken the initial couple, I wasn't 100% sure if I was happy with what I'd captured. So before I moved on, as I knew these wouldn't be here the next time I was back in London, I wanted to try and take a few extra frames just in case.
Guys, come here. Johnny, ponte aquí. Vamos a hacer una foto y vamos, ¿no? Otro par de fotos no está aquí.
And this is where we're going to start wrapping up this video, just heading over towards Millennium Bridge, trying to get a couple of shots of St. Paul's from over here. And as I walked over, I noticed this gentleman in, I just really loved the way that he was dressed. So when he was walking up the stairs, I was just kind of seeing if he was going to take a picture of St. Paul's, which he was. So I took the opportunity to take a few frames, just trying to use him as the focal point of the image whilst also using St. Paul's in the background. And with that, that's it for today's walk around London. I hope you've enjoyed tagging along. Drop a comment, hit a like if you've enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more POVs and photography tips. Check out the channel memberships if you want to help and support the channel grow. Remember, be safe out there, and with all that said and done, I'll catch you in the next one.